everyone, Grant for the Flame Learning channel. In this video, I'm going to teach you a super fast way of building node flow graphs using the search tool in Flame. It's really easy to use and it will benefit every Flame artist, starting from a beginner all the way up to the highly experienced. So we'll be covering a range of uses through the video, but if you want to see a specific part, just use the various timings in the agenda. So working in either batch or batch effects, you are presented with all your tools in a node form. At the bottom of the interface, you have the scrollable node bin where you can drag out the various tools and connect them together in the batch schematic. This gestural method has been around since the beginning of batch and is tried and trusted. Now over the years, loads new tools have been added to batch, and sometimes it can be difficult to find them or even remember their names, especially if you've been using other applications. So based on user feedback, we introduced a new search tool to make things a lot easier. For example, let's say you wanted to create a simple color source node. Instead of scrolling for the node in the node bin, you go to the batch schematic view and press Space Tab for search. In the text box, start typing the name of the tool. As you type, the list displays the various tools containing the specific words. At any point, you can click on the tool or just press Enter to add it to the flow graph. Quick and easy. Now for convenience sake, search is mapped to multiple keyboard shortcuts, the pen, and context menu. You've just used Space Tab, but you could also press F12. If you're using a pen and tablet, you can hold Control and click button 2 on the pen with your thumb. And finally, if you prefer a menu option, just right-click for the context menu. So search is a fast way of finding nodes. But what if you can't remember the node name? Obviously, you can call up search and start typing. But the great news is that the nodes have also been tagged with specific terms. So even if you don't know the name of your tool, you type in what you're looking for, and if the word is associated or tagged with the specific nodes, those tools will be listed as viable choices. So hopefully this will make it easier to find the tools you want, even if you don't know the name. More on tagging and customizing the tagging later in the video. So let's put something together. Now for starters, search can access all the tools in all your node bins. So call up search and type import. This launches the file browser, but you could also load from the desktop and the media panel using search. So grab some media and import them into the batch environment. Now selection plays a very important role when using search. If nothing is selected in the schematic view and you call up the search tool, whatever you add will be placed under the cursor. So if I added a comp node, it will be located here, and you would manually have to connect the nodes. But if a node is selected first, the new node will be added after the selection's output and connected into the first input of the new node. This saves time not having to manually create connections. Secondly, if you need to build a pipeline of nodes, the selection changes to the new node, allowing you to build the flow graph just by using search. This is all you really need to know to start using search, but there are still more features and choice for adding nodes. I'll connect the remaining inputs to build my composite flow graph. So when you have a work in progress, there will be connections combining all the processes of the flow graph together. You can still add nodes under cursor with search and connect them manually into the flow graph. But it is also easy to add nodes to existing connections. For example, let's add a 2D transform node to move the graphic and its alpha before comping it with the background. You would select the node and add a 2D transform using search. Because there were 2 connections coming out of the node and 2 going into the comp node, Flame was able to insert the node and automatically create the right connections. Now, there are a lot of ways of connecting the flow graph, and we have tried to work out the most common scenarios for inserting nodes into multiple connections. But in some cases, it may not be what you expect, so let us know and we'll review the behavior where possible. The standard rule with adding nodes using a node selection is that nodes will always be added to the result output. Another use case to illustrate is if I switch to another batch group where I have one node connecting to multiple nodes. When I use search to insert a mux node, you now have the single result output going into the mux node and multiple connections going out of the mux node. This can be very useful in a few scenarios. Now, for nodes with customizable outputs like action, the nodes will only be added to the main result output and not multiple outputs. Now, if you wanted to insert a node on a specific connection, instead of all connections coming out of a selected node, you would simply place the cursor over a connection. For example, let's say you only wanted to add a node to the matte connection of the graphic. So place your cursor over the blue connection and using search, add a node to adjust the matte. You can do this with any connection. Go ahead and also use search to insert a master grade node between the background source and the comp node. It does not matter if anything is selected. The cursor always takes priority over a node selection when it is placed over an existing connection. If you don't hover over a connection and a node is selected, search will add the node to the output of the selected node and not under cursor. These are the rules to bear in mind. So now that you have a quick and easy way of adding nodes to the flow graph, every node in every node bin is accessible. I'm referring to tools, Matchbox, OpenEffects, Sparks, PyBox, and even setups you've created from the user and project bins. For example, if you want to add a Matchbox shader, you can call up Search and type Sharpen. This will show all tools containing Sharpen. The name of the tool is listed, followed by the tool's category. If you had installed any third-party Matchbox shaders, they need to be in the designated shader path or a subfolder within that path. This is determined in the shader path preferences. Now, admittedly, there are probably some tools that you love, some tools that you'd never use, and some tools that you use all the time. So Search allows you to set your favorites, hide the tools you never need, as well as show you the tools you use the most. So when you open Search and type in a term like keyer, Search will list all the tools relevant with keying. If you look next to each tool, you will see 3 icons: Favorites, Hidden, and Tagging. I'll set this tool as a favorite. The next time you open Search, your favorite tools will be listed below the text box. You could choose it immediately, or you could search for a different node if it's not in your favorites. Your favorites will always be accessible to you straight away. Now, as for the tools you don't want to see, you can call up Search and hide them with the eye icon. So if I hide the legacy Gmask node, it will no longer appear in any search. I'll show you how to manage favorites and hidden shortly, but I just want to focus on the most used or weighted items. Every time you add a node with Search, Flame notices how often you use it. This means that Search is able to display the most used tools without always having to set them as favorites. So if you add the same node a few times, it will start appearing at the top of the search list. This is dynamic and will change the more you use Flame. Now, the standard order of appearance in the search list is favorites, most used, and list alphabetically. When you type in a search term, the list will be filtered using that text, but the standard order of appearance will still apply. Hopefully, this will help you make the most of adding nodes with search. Now, if you don't want to see the most used tools in the search list, just open the Flame main preferences and go to the Search tab. Here, you can toggle between most used or simply sort the tools alphabetically. You will also find your list of favorites and hidden tools, and you can manage the list to get exactly what you want. I'd also like to point out that you can import and export all the search settings, allowing you to take them with you and use them on another system. Now, the other big part of search is tagging. This useful functionality makes it so easy to find the tools you need, even if you're not sure of what you're looking for. For example, if you wanted to do 3D compositing but don't know the name of the tools, just call up Search and type 3D. The Action Compositor will be listed as the node to do the job. If you wanted a pattern generator but didn't know that the tool is called Substance Noise, just type Pattern, Generator or Noise, and the Substance tools will be displayed in the search. I could list more examples, but Flame has a bunch of tags included with the standard install. Going back to the search preferences one last time, there is also a tags list where you can add, modify, and remove tags. So call the tools by whatever tags you want to find them faster. These tags can also be imported and exported like the other search criteria. But it's worth mentioning that all the search criteria is also kept with your Flame user profile, making it easier to access in every project on your system. Now, up to this point, you have seen how search works in Batch and Batch Effects. Search also works within the Modular Kia with the same functionality. However, search is also available within the Action architecture. This includes the Action 3D Compositor, the Gmask Tracer, and the Image Toolset. Let's look at a few workflows that apply to these specific tools. Here we have a simple composite in Action, and you would like to find and add objects without using the node bin. So with nothing selected in the Action schematic, you can call up Search and look for an axis object. You can then connect the axis into the pipeline and make the changes to the graphics position. All this without flicking between the node bin and object menus. Similarly, if you wanted to add a matchbox shader to this graphic, you select the image object first, and using Search, you can apply matchbox shaders like 2D drop shadow and start tweaking the results straight away. So the behavior of search is more or less the same as batch and batch effects. What is useful to know is that you can also use search in the context of grading with selectives. For example, here is a shot, and you could be working in the image node in batch or the effects environment, but it won't matter. To use search with a selective, all you need to do is select the selective, either in the manager, HUD, or keyboard shortcut, and call up search over the viewport. I'll add a bleach bypass shader to the selective and then tweak the effect. Let's say we add another selective using the selective manager, and I'll give the shot another grade on top. Finally, I'd like to add a vignette to the same selective to finish the shot. So ensuring the second selective is highlighted, you can call up search and add a vignette. So that's what I wanted to show you for this video, and hopefully finding the right tools, even though you don't know the names, has become a lot easier in the Flame products. Don't forget to check out the other features, workflows, and enhancements to Flame 2021.2. Comments, feedback, and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated. Please subscribe to the Flame Learning channel and click the bell to be notified for future videos. Thanks for watching and see you soon.